What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the United Devils YouTube channel. My name is Aryan, and we are back again. The games are coming thick and fast now. We are not slowing down, and I am here to give you a little preview and a predicted 11 for United's second Champions League fixture against RB Leipzig. So, United are coming into this one finally, I guess you want to call it, if you want to call it that, this season on a better run of form. It's looking like the start of the season was a bit of a slip up down to the lack of preseason, no preparation, a very hectic end to last season. Obviously, some players were struggling with fitness. Paul Pogba, of course, had the coronavirus, and now it just seems like everything is starting to come together. 2 wins and a draw following that disastrous Spurs defeat. The less said about that, the better. But then a very good response after the international break against Newcastle. A solid victory against PSG away. I think the one that maybe people are writing off coming into this difficult stretch of games. And a draw, which feels like a loss against Chelsea at home. It was another test to see how Solskjaer lines up the team, how the team responds, whether those 2 wins against Newcastle and PSG maybe were a bit of a temporary rise just to go back down again. But United did very well against Chelsea. It very much felt like a game between a team that wants to win against a team that just didn't want to lose. And United should have come away with the victory if Edouard Mendy just wasn't in inspired form. Any other goalkeeper that Chelsea have available at the moment, and you feel like United would have snatched the 3 points. So, 3-game unbeaten streak now. It feels like United are starting to get into the groove. The options, finally there are options. And I think we haven't been able to say that for a long time. United finally have, Solskjaer finally has some sort of a selection headache, because there are probably 2 or 3 options in most positions. The midfield, like I said in a previous video I did here, is packed. Cavani is now back. Martial only has 1 game left, suspension domestically. He is back in the Champions League. Of course, he played against PSG. Everyone seems back at full fitness. Axel Tuanzebe has strengthened the defence. Clean sheet against Chelsea was a big positive, first clean sheet of this season. And yeah, now going into the Leipzig game, Solskjaer is expected to rotate because obviously quick turnover again. Arsenal on the weekend, another huge game. As United are still playing catch up, obviously, in the league after a slow start. But a couple of wins, United have a game in hand over the top of the table, the first 4 places, I believe. So everything is catchable. The start of the season has proved not to be a disaster because a lot of other teams were struggling too. So I think this game against Leipzig is going to be another sort of verification to whether United are finally picking up their groove, and this is what the season is going to look like. Will the season resemble the last 3 games, or will it resemble a mixture of the last 3 games and the first couple of games? Those are the answers that we will be getting. And of course, team selection is going to be very important in these games now, because like Solskjaer said in his press conference, the games are coming thick and fast, and United are probably going to be playing every 3-4 days, or even 2-3 days excuse me, for the rest of the season. And then you have the international breaks that are coming again in November. There's just no slowing down. The schedule is going to be hectic in this new normal that we're living in, and rotation is going to be key. So without further ado, let's get into my predicted 11. Excuse me. So I think, seeing as United are in a difficult group, and this Leipzig team is the one that I felt by consensus United fans feared the most on social media, saying that they're probably going to be a tougher test than PSG due to Julian Nagelsmann's very, very solid tactical nous and just how he sets them up, the kind of football they play. I feel like with United's frailties at the back to start the season, when the Champions League draw was happening, that's who most of the fans felt feared the most. And it was actually funny because PSG are so star-studded, and most people thought that United could get a result there, and they did. So now Leipzig are coming to Old Trafford, and like I said, it's another test. If United can get a win from the first 2 games against PSG and RB Leipzig, they're putting themselves in a fantastic position moving forward, because they will be at least 3 points clear at the top. But of course, rotation is key. Bruno Fernandes has played 90 minutes in pretty much all the games this season. Rashford has played 90 minutes in the last 4, I believe. including international duty too. So there are some players that need to be rotated, but thankfully the likes of Cavani, he's building up the fitness now. Mason Greenwood is back and available for selection. There's of course a bigger bench and 5 subs can be made in the Champions League. That's a plus for rotation too. And Anthony Martial of course is available as well. And for Bruno, there's Donny van de Beek, who needs to be getting minutes sooner rather than later. You would assume that he will be involved tonight in some way. I'm not sure if he'll start. He's not in my first 11, but he will certainly get some minutes. And of course, Paul Pogba is now building up his fitness again. Some very good cameo performance, and a lot has been said about Pogba that perhaps in those bigger games he will be used as a substitute, which is interesting because obviously there are questions always asked in regards to his work rate and whatnot. But I do think he starts against Leipzig because it's been a few games in a row now on the bench. I feel like his fitness has built up more and he needs another go in the first team now because he is just that high profile of a player. He needs to be in that rotation. He can't be coming off the bench forever. That just wouldn't make sense. So coming back to my first 11, I think David De Gea will remain in goal. I said that Dean Henderson might start against PSG because I felt like he will just be the nailed on cup keeper. But obviously United's group is a strong one, so I think Solskjaer is still a little bit hesitant to give him those big games. I think that trust is going to be built up over the course of the season. And of course, De Gea is playing very well at the moment, so I do think De Gea will retain his spot. But with that said, I do believe that Henderson will be in between the sticks next week against Istanbul Başakşehir, because after the Arsenal game where De Gea will obviously probably remain in a goal because there's just no need to change right now. I do think, as I was saying, and I got carried away from that point, I do think United will play that 5-3-2 or 3-5-2 if you want to call it that, or maybe even a 3-4-1-2 formation because they're playing better teams in Europe than they are domestically, and because the group is so difficult. I think this is a perfect system to maybe absorb a little bit of pressure, but just not too much, because you have enough midfielders to win the ball back and play football. You don't have to kind of go route one and just counter attack. As we saw against PSG, United did very well in getting the ball back high up the pitch and in the middle. They won a lot of the midfield battle. Second balls, got the ball into Bruno's feet, or even Fred carried it forward. And a lot was happening in the PSG half. But United were just strong enough at the back with Tuanzebe, Lindelof and Shaw providing enough cover for the fullbacks and being very compact. So I do think United will stick with that. Of course, it's a 5 defender setup when defending, and then 3 defender setup with wing backs going forward. So I do think that they will stick with that. At right wing back, I went with Brandon Williams because Aaron Wan-Bissaka's birth of his child, he wasn't present in the recent training pictures, so I do take that into consideration. He might get the night off. He probably deserves it. So I do think Brandon Williams, after getting minutes in the 23s last weekend, I do think he will get into this one. He was playing there at right wing back too, which I would assume might have been preparation for this game. So I have Brandon Williams as the right wing back. In the middle 3, with the lack of Alex Telles pictures in training, Solskjaer obviously wasn't asked about him directly in a press conference, but I am assuming that maybe his lack of involvement in the last league game after PSG might mean there's a knock. So I'm going to leave him. I'm going to pretend that he is not going to be in selection. And I have a back 3 of Tuanzebe, Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire, which I think presents a very formidable back unit. Just a perfect mix of pace with Lindelof and Tuanzebe, and physicality as well coming from both of those, and just football IQ with Maguire in there as well. So I do think that will be that back 3, and Luke Shaw will then be deputized as the left wing back, obviously in the absence of Alex Telles. I'm assuming Wan-Bissaka might get the night off, so him and Williams are the 2 available options. And it will be interesting to see, with maybe slightly less defensive duties when on the ball, how Luke Shaw will play, because he has been criticised recently for his lack of involvement going forward. And you would feel like the wing-back position, playing at that wing-back position, will give him more of a license to go forward, to overlap, to get involved, and to bring the numbers up in the press, and to try and just overcrowd areas in the defensive side of Leipzig's team. The midfield 3 I'm going for is, I think Pogba and Bruno will play together. As much as I would like Bruno to get rested, I don't think he will. I think Champions League nights, especially against Leipzig, and with the Istanbul game, which is technically the weakest team in the group coming up next week, I think that might be a chance to rest some players, and tomorrow is another big game that you need a strong team out there. So I do think Bruno will play. I think Bruno and Pogba will both play. And in that case, you need somebody there to cover for them, because in that formation, it's not really going to be a double pivot. I don't think if Pogba plays, Pogba will be like that number 8 that will maybe link the defense with the midfield with the attack. But you know, with Pogba, he more often than not doesn't have too many defensive duties. So I do think that you need an engine there, and that will be either Fred or McTominay for me. I don't think Nemanja Matic fits, as we saw against Spurs. When he plays alongside Pogba and Bruno is the more advanced player, it's just unbalanced, and United get overrun and outworked in midfield. So I would personally go for Fred, sitting just in front of that defence, being that engine, covering the width of the pitch, with Pogba obviously alongside of him, but in a bit more advanced progressive position. And then Bruno also there playing as that number 10. But Bruno is a number 10 that is very much box to box too. We saw him intercepting the ball all over the place against Newcastle and against PSG and against Chelsea. He runs his socks off, and you would hope that he will get rested soon, which I do believe will be the next week game. So that is my 3. If I was going to do it graphically, Fred would be he would be the pivot. Pogba would be a little bit more ahead, and then Bruno is the one that has the license to roam, just ahead of both of them. But obviously, as I said, you know, with Bruno and his work rate and commitment, he will be all over there, trying to get on the ball, trying to win the ball back and whatnot. And then the front 2, I think it's going to be Martial and Rashford again, because like I said, rotation would be ideal. Rashford and Bruno have played a lot, so it would be ideal to see them rested particularly, but I just don't think that's going to happen. This game, I think, is too important for Solskjaer and for the club. And going into the Arsenal game, I think you want to beat somebody like Leipzig to pick up momentum and go in and get a huge win on the weekend in the league as well. So I do think it's going to be that split partnership of Martial and Rashford, with Cavani now more and more ready, and I think he might start on the weekend with Martial still suspended for one more game. So I do think it's going to be Martial and Rashford as a split too, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mason Greenwood started instead of Rashford, because I think Martial is nailed on to start, but I think Greenwood, having been rested now, fully fit, hopefully, I think he is ready to start, and I think it would be very interesting to see him play in a more advanced central forward role, working with somebody like Martial in a split too, kind of playing off each other, trying to meet in the middle to work, but also drifting out wide to try and create their own chances. So just to go over again, a 5-3-2 for me. David De Gea in goal, Brandon Williams right wing back, Luke Shaw left wing back, Tuanzebe, Lindelof and Maguire in the middle, Pogba and Fred just in front, Bruno Fernandes slightly ahead, and Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial as the front 2, just like in Paris.